Welcome back to Paranormal Archives. I'm your host, Silas Thorne, and tonight we're delving into one of the most extraordinary cases of spirit possession ever recorded. A tale that blurs the lines between life and death, reality and the unknown. You are now experiencing echoes of the dead, the possession of Lurancy Venuum. This is the story of the Watseka Wonder. Our journey begins in the late 19th century in a quiet town in Illinois called Watseka. Like many small towns of the time, Watseka was a close-knit community where news traveled fast and life moved at a slower pace. But in the summer of 1877, something happened that would forever change the town's history and leave an indelible mark on the world of the paranormal. It all started with a young girl named Lurancy Venuum. Lurancy was just 13 years old when she began experiencing strange and terrifying episodes. These were not the usual growing pains of adolescence. They were something far more sinister. Lurancy would enter into trances, deep, mysterious states of unconsciousness, during which she spoke in voices not her own, and described visions of heaven and hell. She claimed to be visited by spirits. Some she knew, and others she did not. Doctors at the time were baffled. They diagnosed her with what they called nervous hysteria, a catch-all term often used for unexplained medical conditions in women and girls. Treatments ranged from rest to more severe interventions like isolation and even exorcisms, but nothing seemed to help. Lurancy's condition only worsened, and her family grew increasingly desperate. It was around this time that Lurancy's case came to the attention of Dr. E. Winchester Stevens, a physician with a deep interest in spiritualism. Spiritualism, for those unfamiliar, was a religious movement that believed in communication with the spirits of the dead. It was particularly popular in the 19th century, when the world was grappling with the harsh realities of war, disease, and mortality. Dr. Stevens visited the Venuum home and, after observing Lurancy's trances, became convinced that she was not ill, but gifted, what he called a medium in the rough. He believed that Lurancy had the ability to communicate with spirits, and that her episodes were the result of these interactions. But what happened next would turn this case from a medical mystery into one of the most fascinating paranormal events of the century. During one of her trances, Lurancy spoke of a spirit named Mary Roff. The name was not unfamiliar in Watseka. Mary Roff had been a local girl who died 12 years earlier under tragic circumstances. Like Lurancy, Mary had experienced strange fits and trances, which modern historians believe might have been caused by epilepsy. But in the 19th century, such conditions were poorly understood, often attributed to possession or madness. Mary's family, the Roffs, had never fully recovered from her death. They were well respected in the community, but grief had left a shadow over their lives. When Dr. Stevens suggested that the spirit of Mary Roff might be trying to communicate through Lurancy, the Roffs were intrigued and perhaps hopeful for some closure. It was decided that Lurancy would visit the Roff household, and this is where the story takes a truly eerie turn. From the moment she entered the Roff home, Lurancy, now fully under the identity of Mary, displayed an intimate knowledge of the house and its inhabitants. She recognized rooms she had never seen before, identified objects that had belonged to Mary, and spoke with the Roffs as if she were their long-lost daughter, returned from the grave. The transformation was so complete that Lurancy insisted on being called Mary and began to live her life as though she were Mary Roth. This wasn't just a case of someone pretending or acting a part. Lurancy seemed to have genuinely lost herself in the identity of this deceased girl. She began to exhibit behaviors, speech patterns, and even handwriting that resembled Mary's. It was as though Lurancy had become a vessel for Mary's spirit. Over the course of the next 3 months, Lurancy lived with the Roths. During this time, she displayed a profound and detailed knowledge of Mary's life, knowledge that Lurancy, as a young girl with no connection to the Roth family, could not have known. She remembered details of Mary's childhood, recalled personal anecdotes, and recognized friends and family members whom Lurancy had never met. This wasn't just a case of someone knowing a few details about another person's life. Lurancy, or Mary, seemed to inhabit the very essence of who Mary Roth had been. The Roths, initially skeptical, were eventually convinced that their daughter had somehow returned to them. They embraced Lurancy as Mary and treated her with the same love and care they had given their own daughter. But what was happening in the Venuum household during this time? Lurancy's family reported that she had no memory of her own life as Lurancy Venuum. It was as if she had completely become another person, leaving her own identity behind. The transformation was so complete that even neighbors and friends of the Roths began to accept this girl as Mary, returned from the other side. As the days turned into weeks, the question on everyone's mind was, how long would this last? Could Lurancy remain in this state indefinitely, or would she eventually return to her true self? As the months passed, something remarkable happened. Lurancy announced that it was time for Mary to leave and for her to return to her own family. The Roths, though heartbroken, understood and allowed Lurancy to go. When she returned to the Venuum household, Lurancy had no memory of her time with the Roths, nor did she remember the events that had led her there. To her it was as if she had simply been away. The case of the Watseka Wonder was widely reported in newspapers across the country and became a sensation among spiritualists and skeptics alike. Dr. Stevens documented the case in great detail, believing it to be definitive proof of spirit possession. He argued that the knowledge and behaviors exhibited by Lurancy could not be explained by anything other than a genuine spiritual connection. But not everyone was convinced. Skeptics of the time, and even today, argue that Lurancy could have subconsciously absorbed details about Mary Roth's life from the community or even from her own imagination. They suggest that the intense grief of the Roth family and the suggestibility of the Venuums might have played a role in what was essentially a psychological phenomenon rather than a paranormal one. But can psychology alone explain what happened in Watseka? How could a 13-year-old girl with no direct connection to the Roth family exhibit such detailed knowledge and behavior? How could she recall intimate memories, recognize personal belongings, and interact with people as if she had known them her entire life? Even the skeptics are left with questions. The case of the Watseka Wonder remains one of the most documented and perplexing cases of spirit possession in American history. It challenges our understanding of the human mind, the nature of consciousness, and the possibility of life after death. For those who believe, it's a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, a spirit that can reach out from beyond the grave to reconnect with the living. For the skeptics, it's a mystery of the mind, a case that reveals the depths of our subconscious and the power of belief. But no matter where you stand on the spectrum of belief, the Watseka Wonder is a story that leaves us questioning the boundaries between the living and the dead, between reality and the unknown. And perhaps, just perhaps, there's more to our existence than meets the eye. Watseka, Illinois, still holds this story close to its history. The town has changed, grown, and modernized, but the tale of the Watseka wonder remains a haunting reminder of a time when the veil between worlds seemed just a little bit thinner. If you walk the streets of Watseka today, you might pass by the houses where the Venums and the Roffs once lived. You might even hear whispers of the story from locals who still wonder what truly happened in their quiet town all those years ago. The echoes of that mystery linger, a chilling reminder that some stories are never fully told, and some questions are never truly answered. And so, as we draw this tale to a close, we are left with the same haunting question that has echoed through the years. What really happened in Watseka? Was it a genuine case of spirit possession? Or was there something deeper at play? Something that we have yet to fully understand, perhaps we will never know. But one thing is certain, this is a story that leaves us with more questions than answers. And perhaps that is the true wonder of it all. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed this episode of Paranormal Archives, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with those who love a good mystery. And remember, there are more stories waiting to be uncovered, more tales of the paranormal just beyond the veil. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay in the light.